This right here is a pair of Hoka work shoes, and I had 2 pair of these that I found at the bins, and on that same day I found these right here for probably 50 cents, and they ended up selling for 35 plus shipping. So this ended up being a pretty cool find I picked up during one of the last rotations when I was at the Goodwill bins. So alrighty y'all, so welcome back to another video. I appreciate you guys for tuning back in. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys items that are currently selling for me that cost $3 or less. And if this is your first time clicking on one of my videos, thank you. My name is Chris. I've been reselling now for about 8 years full time. I stumbled into the business at the end of 2016, went full time pretty quick in April of the next year. And my wife and I, we have 5 kids. We homeschool. We used to live in Portland, Oregon, and then we live in a tiny town in Tennessee, which is actually called Portland, believe it or not, and it's about an hour north of Nashville. So here are some low dollar items. You've been kind of following my channel for a while. If I can find these items down at the Goodwill bins, I know that they sell, and usually I can get them for under $1. In this case right here, I know I talked about at the beginning how all these items cost $3. These cost way less than that. I usually always pick these up because if I can pick them up for that cheap price and then sell them for 10-12 bucks all in, it ends up being a $4 or $5 profit. And like I've used the example before, we can pay our kids commission for the work they do around the house with that. So this is a pair of American Eagle cut off the stress shorts, Goodwill bins, probably less than $1, and they sold for $5 plus shipping. This right here is a pair of Under Armour. They're just basic compression shorts. You're not going to have people elbowing you at the bins about a pair of these, and probably 50 cents. They sold for $5 plus shipping. This is an Under Armour sports bra, same scenario, 50 cents, sold for $5 plus shipping, and all the shipping on these are $5.99 a piece, so the buyer's all in for somewhere between 11 to 12 bucks, which is where I like these to be in these scenarios. This right here is a Nike, just a Nike Pro workout short, or not short, a shirt. For men, a men's medium, Goodwill bins, probably 50 cents. I believe this sold for $5 plus shipping. And this is a pair of Calia crop leggings. 5 years ago, these would have sold for 20 bucks plus shipping. So it just goes to show you how consumers' tastes change over the years. These probably cost 50 cents from the Goodwill bins, and today was only able to pull in $8 plus shipping for them. And they used to be a really, really hot item, but not really anymore. The only time I ever really pick up Calia is if it's a model that I know that sells and if the price is really good. And lastly, from this batch right here, this actually sold for much more than those right here. The brand is called Stearns, and I'm always looking up bibs, just coming from the Pacific Northwest, because I sold a lot of ski stuff from up that way. So even if it's not Patagonia or Columbia or something like that, I always look it up just to see if there's any value. And in this case here, had a pretty good sell rate on it, and definitely cost, this is probably closer to the $3 mark right here, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, and it ended up selling for 20 plus shipping. I think the shipping on this was $8.99. So in Nashville, I've been finding quite a bit of boots, and if we ever met up at the Goodwill bins in Portland, that was never really the case, because I was always after sneakers, because they were in high supply up there. I could always find them. But here, as you've been watching for a while, I've been telling you guys the struggle of finding shoes there with just it only being 4 tables at the bins, and just a lot of competition to get them. But I've been finding boots, and I mean boots sale. These are a pair of, well, I didn't find these at the bins. These actually came from the retail store, but here are a couple of pair of Ariats. I found these, I believe, last week. And these right here are pretty cool. These are got the American flag on the front, and I think these comped out really, really good. And again, I'm really familiar with Ariat because a really good friend of mine got married in 2014, and he had a cowboy themed wedding, and I never forget, we had to buy boots to participate and be a part of the wedding party, and I bought a pair of Ariats, and they cost 150 bucks brand new. That's always stuck with me, that these boots are really expensive. So every time I see the brand Ariat as far as boots, it's always struck a chord with me because just from previous experience. And so these right here, 4 pair of Ariats, not bad to pick those up for probably $3. I got a bunch of shoes over here that I need to put away at probably some point, maybe today. More shoes in here. Most of these came from the bins. These are a pair of Danner boots. I did used to find a lot of those when we lived up in Oregon. Another pair of boots from the bins. These aren't Ariats. These are Laredo, but they still sell pretty good. And these are pretty interesting. These are a pair of LL Bean. They're like moose hide moccasins, but comps on these were amazing, and they're brand new. And these were just laying in the bins on one of the days where I was able to get in and find some stuff. So if you've been an entrepreneur for a while, you know that business sometimes change by the hour. And what I'm currently doing right now is I'm trying to figure out what's the best utilization of the last maybe 2 or 3 hours of my sourcing day. What I used to do was I would go to the Goodwill bins that open. They open up at 8. I would stay there till probably about 11. Then I would spend the earlier part of the afternoon doing retail arbitrage. And on a lot of those days, what would end up happening is I would have a pretty decent day at the bins, but my afternoons wouldn't really be profitable. So I would go to 4 or 5 Rosses, include a Burlington into that, and I would come up sometimes with 3 items, sometimes with no items. And I would always say to myself, had I just stayed at the bins during that time period, I probably could have found 20 or 30 additional items. So that's what I've been doing here recently over the course of the last couple of weeks. I've been staying at the bins literally for my entire sourcing day, and then maybe going to one Ross on the way home, but sometimes not even that. And that's been giving me much better results as far as finding more inventory, sometimes even better inventory. All right, so moving right along, this is a pair of Calia leggings, probably 50 cents at the bins, and these sold for $8 plus shipping. This is a pair of Nike tights right here. I pick these up all the time, and most of the time, well, not most of the time, but every now and again I'll keep a pair for myself to work out in, and sometimes even to sleep in. But again, 50 cents from the Goodwill bins, and these sold for 13 plus shipping. This is a pair of vintage Levi 505 shorts right here. Probably $1.50 from the bins, and they sold for 13 plus shipping. This is a pair of Adidas. This model is called the Weekender track pants, men's large, $1.50 from the bins, 16 bucks plus shipping. And this is a new at tags Columbia PFG t-shirt. Found this one at the bins. I find new at tag stuff all the time. I'm guessing from retailers or even places like Ross and Burlington's that donate them once they can't move them. But again, probably 50 cents, sold for 10 plus shipping. And this is a pair of cool pants right here. See the logo on the back, and Goodwill bins. I think these even had a few small stains on them, but they ended up still selling for 34 plus shipping. That's the tag right there. And lastly, this is a pair of Lululemon. I think these are the 25-inch tights right here. I forget what these may be the fast free model right here. I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, picked these up from the bins. And I was there one day, and the girl was like, I think she found like a Lululemon skirt or a skirt or something like that. And she was like, holy bleep, I've never found Lululemon here. She was like really excited. And on that same day, I found these right here for probably 50 cents, and they ended up selling for 35 plus shipping. So this ended up being a pretty cool find right here that I picked up during one of the last rotations when I was at the Goodwill bin. So it's a Tennessee Titan on-field jacket right here. See the swoosh right here by the side pocket. But it's not just a Tennessee Titans jacket all by itself. Get this. It's from Mike Vrabel. If you follow football, especially Titans football right here in Nashville, Vrabel coached him for a number of years, and he actually had a really good year in 2019. I think he led him all the way to the AFC Championship, where they lost to Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs. He also won, I believe, 3 Super Bowls with Tom Brady. And I thought this was pretty wild to find a Coach worn jacket down at the Goodwill bins. I remember when Jonathan Smith left Oregon State, a lot of his stuff started popping up at Goodwill, but I've never found any player or worn jackets or jerseys in my reselling career. Even when we were up in Oregon, I never found a game worn Mariota jersey or a signed Mariota jersey. I never found like a Chip Kelly sweatshirt. So I thought this was pretty cool to find something like this in under like 6 months of being here. So I thought that was pretty unique. And again, there's no comps on something like this. I mean, I'm not really sure what it would possibly go for, but I thought it was a pretty cool find. Okay, so I do have some shoe sales right here. So these are just a pair of Skechers slip-on, maybe like mules or something, or foamies, I guess. These probably are closer to the $3 mark right here, and they ended up selling for $14 plus shipping. These right here are a pair of Teva sandals. I first started selling these when we lived up in Oregon. I picked them up one day, looked them up, and they sold pretty quick. These right here, found at the bins, probably $1, kind of light, maybe $1.50. They sold for $11 plus shipping. It's kind of funny that these kids' Crocs sold more than those men Tevas, but I digress. Goodwill bins pick up on the Crocs probably maybe what, $1, maybe less than that. They sold for $13 or $14 plus shipping. And these are a pair of Vans for women. They have like the chains on the side, and I've had these for a while. I actually found these way up in Oregon, so if you've been watching, you know that it's been a minute on these right here, but they finally did end up selling for $17 plus shipping. And then lastly, on the shoes, this right here is a pair of Hoka work shoes right here, and I had 2 pair of these that I found at the bins in Nashville, and these are probably closer to the $3 mark right here. I sold the first pair for $50, and then probably like a week later, an offer came in for $40 on these right here. And so I said, what the heck, they only cost probably about $3 or so. So I took the money and ran in that situation right there. And here are some more items. This right here is a vintage navy sweatshirt right here. As you can see, the brand is Pro Weave. You can see the vintage tag. Picked this one up at the bins, probably no more than $2. It sold for $20 plus shipping. And these are a pair of Iron Flex camo cargo shorts. The brand isn't really good, but this is more of like a style-based sale right here, with it being camo, cargo, weather's changing. I believe these sold for $10 or $11 plus shipping. And here is a Emo's pizza shirt. This is I believe it's a St. Louis style, or maybe even a St. Louis based pizza company. I looked it up because it looked kind of cool, and it was one of those days where the rotation was really slow. So in those periods, I'm always looking up items to see if I can monetize them. And in this situation right here, it looks like there was a bunch of sales on this shirt right here. It didn't sell for a ton of money, but it didn't cost a lot of money. I think it cost probably less than $1, and it sold for, believe it or not, $13 plus shipping. So you can't beat that on something that I probably wouldn't even picked up had rotations been coming fast. This right here is a pair of Gymshark crop leggings. Not a really good brand anymore. Like, again, kind of like Calia. 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, this would have been probably $20-25 plus shipping, but I mean, not really the case anymore. Probably 50 cents though, and they sold for $8 plus shipping. This is a pair of American Eagle distressed jeans. I pick these up all the time. I love when I find the really big sizes because they tend to move really fast. But in this case right here, the size isn't really big, and yeah, they're only a women's 4 short. But I mean, I looked it up. It seems like it was still moving, and these ended up selling for probably under 2 months, and they pulled in, let me find it to get the accurate price. They pulled in $14 plus shipping. And lastly, on this batch right here, this is a pair of Athleta crop tights right here. I've had these for a while, maybe even close to maybe even close to the year marker, because I picked these up way back in Oregon. But a women's size XL Athleta, again, kind of like Calia, some of those other Gymshark, some of those brands that used to be hot 3, 4, 5 years ago. Unless you find like one of those really recent styles or something that's super desirable, doesn't really move as good as it once did. And I'm only picking up Athleta in the right size, and if the price is right. In this case right here, really cheap at the bins, and I believe these ended up pulling in, where are you? They pulled in $12.79, a weird price. It must have been on a sale, plus the $5.99 shipping. All right, so if you've been watching for a while, I've talked quite a bit over the years about personal development. I'm really big into that because I believe as a human being, you constantly have to be evolving, you constantly have to be growing, and so I'm always trying to pick up new information. I'm constantly reading. A lot of times when I'm walking around the Goodwill bins, my goal is to get through at least one book a week. So I'll pick a book on Sunday night and I'll listen to that book as I walk around, and usually by the end of the week sourcing, the book's done. And it's a really easy way to get information through your brain and just constantly be getting new ideas to be able to just move forward in life, whether it be business or even in your personal life. I've read a book called the 5 Types of Wealth, and in that book the author talked a lot about anything over 0 compounds. So say for instance you've been working out consistently for an hour a day, and you've been doing that for many months now, and you got it down. But let's just say something comes up and kind of knocks you off track, and you don't have an hour to work out anymore. In most situations, a lot of people would just stop working out altogether because they don't have an hour to work out, so I can't work out today. What he talks about in the book is even if you only had 15 minutes to do cardio that day, it's better than nothing. Kind of tie it back closer to home into our business and resale. And let's just say you list about 10 items a day. You've been doing that consistently for the longest period of time, and now life has gotten kind of hectic, gotten kind of chaotic. You can't list 10 items a day. Even if you can only photo 2 items a day now and get those up into the universe so buyers can actually find them, it's better than nothing. Because remember, everything over 0 compounds. Alright y'all, so I think I've gotten to a good stopping point. I think this is where I'm going to cut the video off at. The mailman's going to be here probably in an hour, maybe an hour and a quarter to pick the packages up. So I need to sprint to a close now to get those ready so he can grab them and go. And so I appreciate you guys for coming along with me. If you got anything out of the video, as always, like it, consider subscribing to the channel, and I'll catch you guys right back here on the next video.
This might be all that I know. Think it's okay. I've got a long way to grow. At my own pace. Go the long way. No one taught me how to walk, but I figured it out fine.